All right, well, moving on then. For the NBA, Ben, this is all for you here. So last night, the Philadelphia 76ers were eliminated from playoff contention. The Heat will advance. In the Mavericks and the Suns, the Mavericks forcing a Game 7 going back to Phoenix. And tonight we got the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks going for Game 6 in Milwaukee. Milwaukee getting the home court opportunity to eliminate the Celtics. And, of course, we got the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors Game 6 not Golden State, but Oakland, rather. It is in Oakland, right?
It's in San Francisco, actually. That's where the new stadium is at, the Chase Center. Yep.
Oh, I'm thinking of the old one. I'm thinking of Oracle.
Yes, Oracle, yep.
All right, well, anything could be better than that Game 5 performance for the Warriors. That was embarrassing. I don't even know who watched that. That was embarrassing. I saw the score. But, Ben, we're going to talk about the Celtics and the Bucks here. Definitely an interesting series going back-to-back a couple of times. So what would you say the biggest storyline has been in that series?
The biggest storyline for me was the closing out of Game 5 for the Milwaukee Bucks. You hear every time you look at the stats, in a best-of-7 game series, how important Game 5 is when you're tied 2-2. And that's exactly how this series was. The Bucks and Celtics head into Game 5 tied 2-2. And going into the fourth quarter of this one, it looked like the Boston Celtics had a legitimate chance to take this one and go up 3-2 in the series heading into Game 6. And then Milwaukee, and I think this is partially because obviously the Bucks have been in situations like this too. They had the run to the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago. They've been back since. But Milwaukee Bucks, a championship team that just won last year, had the closing experience, the upper hand. And I think that's really important because they did some things at the end of that game that a championship team does that ended up coming back against Boston Celtics. And I'll get to that here in a second. One of them being their stars down the stretch really showed up. Giannis Antetokounmpo, my player for the best player in the NBA right now, 40 points to go with 11 rebound, showed up down the stretch, had the bloody face going on, but had at least one big free throw. Bobby Portis bailed him out with the putback on the second, but was big at the end there. And then another big player down the stretch, Drew Holiday, who shooting-wise this postseason has been really underwhelming. I believe heading into Game 5, he was very close in shot attempts and actual points, which is just horrible efficiency. But then to go out in Game 5 for Drew Holiday and to put up 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists, and what really was big for Drew Holiday was the 2 plays defensively at the end of the game. He had the takeaway on what could have been a go-ahead bucket for Boston, and then when Boston had the ball down 3 points with 4 seconds left, Marcus Smart is bringing the ball up the court and actually has a pretty open Jason Tatum if he finds him. Does he get that pass there? I don't know, but before Smart can even get that pass off, Drew Holiday takes the ball away again to seal the win for the Milwaukee Bucks. So someone that has been a little bit more to step up in the absence of Chris Middleton. Drew Holiday has not been efficient so far, but had 2 absolutely ginormous plays to close out that game, and that is championship-type basketball. And the biggest game so far of the series, and what has been a really competitive series, to have the 2 big plays by your best players, I think, is what has been really, really important so far. And another big thing is for the Celtics, they went with sort of a smaller lineup in this game. The Celtics did with some of their players. They went with Smart, Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, and I don't remember who the 5th player was, but it led to a little bit of a smaller lineup, and because of that, the Celtics gave up 17 offensive rebounds to the Bucks, and those 17 offensive rebounds turned into 20 second chance points. And once again, the second chance points, that's something a championship caliber team does. Someone like Milwaukee, who last year had the run, beat the Nets when the Nets had Kevin Durant playing great basketball, and then came back to beat the Suns in the NBA Finals in 6 games. So stuff like that, closeout moments, that's the big storyline for me. I don't believe Jason Tatum had a defensive rebound in the entire second half of Game 5 on Wednesday. So that's what I look to most so far in that series, is because if you don't potentially have the closeout like Giannis Antetokounmpo had, Drew Holiday had, and even some other moments like the Bobby Portis putback. Bobby Portis finished with 14 points and 15 boards, a really good stat line for him. So that's just a championship caliber team doing what they need to do to get done and win and take a brutal Game 5. Does this mean the Bucks are winning the series for sure? No, not at all. But when you look at history, in a 2-2 series, winning Game 5 certainly plays into your favor. And me mentioning that Jason Tatum rebounds, I don't want to downplay the game he had because he still did have 34 points, but not a single member of the Celtics was in double-digit rebounds, and that came up huge, like I said, because it led to multiple second-chance points, 20 of them from the Milwaukee Bucks. And that, second-chance points when you win a game by 3, that's certainly something you can point to, and that's why we're sitting here headed into the game tonight with the Bucks looking to close it out.
I will ask this question for you because I found it very interesting. The Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks are going to a Game 7. If you were to ask an average person to name a player on Dallas besides Luka Doncic, I don't know many people could. Just an average person, not an NBA aficionado. So, Ben, do you think the Mavericks can translate their home success and steal that last road game at Phoenix and advance to the conference finals?
Man, would I love it, because it'd be really fun. And that's after me really singing the Suns' praise on the show last week, saying how good they are, and they've kind of switched it around since.
It's fluid. That's what it is. It's fluid.
Very much so. And I would love, I'm going to be pulling for the Mavericks because I usually root for the upset, but Phoenix at home, it certainly worries me. Phoenix struggles on the road, but I think Phoenix's home is so good that they'll have a good game plan coming in to close it out. I like the Suns coaching staff of the Mavericks coaching staff too to put together a good game plan. But you're completely right, Luca. There's no way an average fan, not an NBA fan, but just an average fan, is knowing who Jalen Brunson is or Dorian Finney-Smith or Spencer Dinwiddie, some of the biggest second and third contributors to this Mavericks team.
How about Dwight Powell?
Yeah, players like that. Luca Doncic, though, continues in all of his playoff series throughout his career, continues to average over 30 points. He has been absolutely incredible, and to go up against what has been the record-wise number one team in the NBA, and now they're heading back to 7 games after the games at home for the Mavericks have just been absolute blowouts. So you'd love to see them translated over to Phoenix. But it would take a pretty tall task. I'm going to lean the Suns here, but I think this game ends up being closer than some of the blowouts we've seen. But, man, Luka Doncic, I mean, there's a very legitimate argument for you. I would say right now you could probably argue that he's the second best player in the NBA behind Giannis, and I don't think that's too unfair to argue with how good Luka is, especially in big moments. I know he just won his first playoff series this year, but how many other superstars like this are playing with? No disrespect to Jalen Brunson, but is he the number two on a championship team? Like you said, he's too inconsistent to put it all together. So there's some decent names, but if this Mavericks team had one more star in it, then you'd really start to take them seriously as a championship contender.
I would take them seriously if they got someone like Bradley Beal.
Of course, absolutely. So
would be brutal to verse.
I mean, I like Jason Kidd as a coach, but he's no Monty Williams.